Welcome to Executive Leaders Radio, your spot in the corner office, the radio show where executives share their secrets to success. Executive Leaders Radio.
You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen, with my co-host, Shannon Lane, Newmark Knight Frank, Drew Hanlon, Frank Hennessy, Premier Planning Group, Ben Drummond, D2 Integrated Solutions, Pat Riley, USI, and Matthew Shapiro, Obermeyer. And we have a great lineup of guests for you on our show today. Matthew, will you please give us the rundown?
I would love to, Herb. We're starting off with Tia Lyles-Williams, the founder and CEO of LucasPye Bio. Then we have Ed Babin, president of Metropolitan Fire Protection, followed by Michael Slupecki, the CEO and president of Griswold Home Care. And we'll be wrapping up today with TJ Colaiezzi, the co-founder and CEO of LifeBrand.
Let's get to know our first guest, Tia Lyles-Williams, founder and CEO of LucasPye Bio. What is LucasPye Bio, Tia?
Drug manufacturer. So the drugs that you guys are taking for your vaccinations for COVID-19, those are the type of drugs we'll be making.
All righty. And where are you from originally? How many brothers and sisters? And where are you in the pecking order?
Born in Gary, Indiana, raised in Houston, Texas, high school in Atlanta. I'm the oldest of two. Yeah. All
righty. Drew.
Why were you moving around so much, Tia?
I think my dad was just following the market and following his friends. He was a car salesman most of his life, and now he's training to be a real estate agent during retirement.
And tell us about your dad. What do you remember most about him?
He worked a lot, so I didn't recognize it then, but older, I recognized that he really took or held in high importance to support his family financially.
And what do you bring every day to work from your dad?
Doing what I have to do to support myself, to support my family, doing what I have to do to support my employees.
Mm-hmm. Frank?
So, Tia, you told us that your dad put aside his dreams. What do you mean by that?
Well, he quit college during his last semester, went and started working, got a job as a car salesman, and been that ever since. So he's always sacrificed.
And what impact has that had on you?
Me doing something similar. Now, I have not sacrificed as far as my education and tools and foundation I need to be successful, but I do sacrifice my time spent with family and other things I could be doing to build this business for the success of my employees.
So how does that affect the way you approach your business from a community standpoint?
I'm always looking at it from what do the employees need, what do they want, what's going to be our role in the community, and how do we support them.
Mm-hmm. Ben?
Tia, tell us about role models or people you looked up to growing up as a child.
I looked up to a lot of people in my family, doctors, lawyers, some business owners. But some of the people that I looked up to as far as celebrities, if you can say that, Martin Luther King, Coretta Scott King, Ann Richards, former governor of Texas. So people in leadership positions dealing with community.
And what did you learn from them?
I learned how to always be yourself and stay focused on your plan, have tunnel vision, but always incorporate, again, the community around it, or the culture around it to support you and move forward.
Mm-hmm. How does that lesson carry not only into how you're running your business, but how you define what it means to be a leader?
Well, our mission is, the whole goal of our mission is to bring the cost of drugs down for patients and to bring high quality, high wage jobs to underserved communities. So it's definitely integrated in everything I do for my business as well as my personal life.
Matthew?
Yeah, you told us you played a lot of sports as a kid. What was your favorite?
My favorite was basketball.
And what was your role on your basketball teams?
Officially small forward and a 3 guard, but my role on the basketball team, I think, was to support and encourage others to complete the job, do their best, and be aggressive.
What would your teammates tell us about you on the team?
Detail oriented, don't play games, very focused, and a go-getter.
And what do those traits have to do with running LucasPye Bio?
Everything. I'm the first African-American queer woman to own a biologic manufacturing company. So I'm up at adversity every day when it comes to customers or dealing with our vendors. So it's very crucial to my role in my company and make LucasPye Bio successful.
Mm-hmm. Pat?
You mentioned in the green room that education was really important to your mom. Can you tell us a little bit about your relationship with your mom and why it was so important?
We're super close. During my younger years, she was a housewife. So we were homeschooled before homeschool was taught. I was homeschooled all the way up to 3rd grade.
And then what happened after 3rd grade?
third grade, I went to public school. But the great thing about it is that I started private school at 4 years old. I graduated high school at 17. So education was pushed as far as having that minimum bachelor's degree literally since I was 3 years old.
And you told us that you originally wanted to be a doctor or a lawyer. Why did you change that?
Changed it from advice from a counselor later down the line. But what happened was I took the MCAT, and it was my second time taking it, and the HVAC caught on fire. I got my car towed that morning. I got threatened to be let go of my job because they didn't appreciate or want me to go study for the test. So I figured, hey, it shouldn't be this hard. So this might not be the path for me. Let me figure out another path where I can still impact patients, still do science, but not have to be a doctor or be stuck in one place at one time.
Mm-hmm. Shannon?
Yeah, in the green room, you mentioned, you moved around a lot as a kid. You actually were in a new neighborhood and started a new school at 9th grade. A lot of people would talk about how hard that was, but you talked about how you had your old friends and were able to meet new people as well. Where did this sense of community and positivity come from?
I think because I was always the youngest one in the classroom, so I was always making new friends as far as being able to relate to people. So I had somewhat of an outgoing personality. Always was never scared to be the first one to say hello to anybody or start a conversation.
And how does that relate to the way you're building your team nowadays?
Everyone on my team, as far as my executive team, I worked with them at some point in my 20-year career. There are some new people that I've met on the latter part as being an executive at this company, and we've easily been able to relate and hire them, do their respective roles, and it's more like a family culture on top of being a professional culture.
Who's next?
So Tia, it's fascinating to me. Your dad really laid the groundwork for you to be a hard worker, and mom, showed you education, and that was a way out. And now you're really giving back to your community. And I'm just curious, what do you hear your mom whispering in your ear every day when you're faced with a tough decision?
Tia, be nice. Be nice and be patient. Take your time. It's going to happen.
And where did your self-confidence come from?
Probably from, again, being the youngest one in the classroom, mom setting the foundation that be who you are, know your stuff, be better than everybody else, do more than everybody else, and you won't have to worry about it.
Mm-hmm. Tia, when Shannon asked you about moving to new places, one of the first things you said was keeping your friends from the old places. And I think you just said your executive team is made up of people who you've gathered around you over the years and stayed in touch with. Where does that keeping people in your life come from? How do you do that?
Just being very family oriented. So I'm probably unique enough that we have family reunions on all four sides of my family. So my mother's dad, my dad's father, and my dad's mother. And these reunions are every other year. Now, since COVID, they've slowed down, but we keep in touch, even if it's via Zoom.
Are you telling me that family reunions have anything to do with the way you view your business?
Of course. They're very organized. For example, my father's mother's side is super organized. We have a board of executives, if that's what you want to call it. We have a financial account. We have dues that we have to pay. And same thing on my mother's side. So that's where that comes from. Keeping it in the family, being organized.
But it's more than organization, right? You're actually talking about the people you work with being part of your family, right? We're treating them the same as family.
Exactly. Treat people how you want to be treated. But when I say family, my family is my extended family too. So my friends that I've grown up with or went to school with are also my family. So that's where that comes from as well.
So Tia, I know LucasPye Bio actively hires the underserved in the community. Why is that important to you?
It's important to me because being a person of color, specifically African American, we often don't have the same opportunities as far as our economic standpoint comes from. And so it's very important for me to go back and bring these people up and bring them into the fold so they can see how to manage themselves and an opportunity to not only just make money, but build wealth for their family and understand that I'm going to give you an opportunity. All you got to do is take advantage and do the job.
So you have a sense of responsibility towards the community that you impose upon yourself.
Extreme sense. If people didn't give me the opportunity to take a chance on me early in my career, I wouldn't be where I'm at today.
Mm-hmm. Faith? Does faith play a role in your business career?
Faith plays a big role. I'm a member of One LA, a church out in LA, virtually now. But yeah, it plays a big role with faith. Once you have faith and you believe in something higher than yourself, everything kind of falls into place. You can't just sit there and believe in people. You got to believe in something bigger and better. People are not guaranteed as far as their character and their morale.
You are a wise individual. We've been speaking with Tia Lyles-Williams, founder and CEO of LucasPye Bio. What is the website address for your organization?
www.LucasPyebio.com.
We've been speaking with Tia Lyles-Williams, founder and CEO of LucasPye Bio, here on Executive Leaders Radio. Don't forget to visit our website, executiveleadersradio.com, to learn more about our executive leaders. Stick around. We'll be back in a moment right after this short break.
Recognize your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, Executive Leaders Radio. Yes, you can recognize your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, executiveleadersradio.com. Simply visit executiveleadersradio.com, securely enter their info, and we'll reach out to spotlight your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, executiveleadersradio.com. Don't wait. This radio and online social media and search engine exposure is quite valuable. Yes, this radio and online social media and search engine exposure is quite valuable to your business advisors who deserve to be recognized. Visit executiveleadersradio.com now to nominate your deserving business advisors for free exposure.
We're back. You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen. I'd like to introduce Ed Babin, president of Metropolitan Fire Protection. Ed, what is Metropolitan Fire Protection? What are you guys doing?
Metropolitan Fire designs and installs automatic fire sprinkler and standpipe systems, mostly commercial, some residential.
Mm-hmm. How'd you get a job with this company?
Well, actually, I didn't get a job with this company, Herb. I started it at the age of 29.
Mm-hmm. All righty. And how large or how small is the team?
We fluctuate between 30 and 40 employees.
All right. Where are you from originally? How many brothers and sisters? Where are you in the pecking order?
I grew up in Havertown, Pennsylvania. I'm the youngest of 6.
All righty. And Havertown's blue collar or what? Fancy dancy neighborhood? What kind of neighborhood is that?
No, Havertown is a blue collar neighborhood in the suburbs of Philadelphia.
Frank?
Ed, you grew up in a big family. What do you remember most about growing up in a Babin household?
I remember a lot about it, but mostly I would say how I had to fend for myself, being the youngest of 6, Frank. Hand-me-down clothes, never got anything new. It all passed right down to me and went into the trash can after that.
How's that impact you now?
I think it makes me appreciate and value things. Ownership of things is very important to me.
Mm-hmm. So everybody had to contribute.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Drew?
What do you bring to work every day from those humble beginnings?
I think I bring diligence and loyalty and hard work. I mean, those humble beginnings really taught me to, like I said earlier, fend for myself and learn on my own. And I try to teach my employees that and tell them, listen, you may be here today and you may not think this is your career for the rest of your life, but try your hardest today and work as hard as you can, and you'll be successful in your life in any job.
Ben?
Ed, where did the capital come from to start this business at 29?
Well, I bought a house when I was 23, and then I ended up getting married a couple of years later. And at the age of 29, I came home and told my wife at the time, honey, I'm selling the house. We're going to start our own business.
In the green room, you mentioned that you were funding your own tuition in 7th grade. So you're really a self-made individual. Would you agree with that?
There's no doubt about it. Yes. My father made me go to the caddy yard at 7th grade, and I had to give him half of my money just so that I could go to a Catholic high school and pay for half of it. I had no choice in the matter.
What does that have to do with how you're running this business?
I had skin in the game from the beginning, and running this business, I try to tell my employees, listen, you have skin in the game. Everybody in this company has skin in the game, and it's reflected by their bonuses that they get. quarterly and at the end of the year.
Mr. Riley?
You mentioned that you played a lot of sports growing up in the neighborhood. Which one was your favorite?
I think by far, I played organized football, baseball, and basketball, but by far my favorite sport was street hockey and or stickball. They were both fantastic. I love them.
And what was your role in the neighborhood playing stickball?
I was the organizer. I brought the broomstick and the tennis ball and knocked on doors and said, "Hey, let's go get a game together." And we would go to the church parking lot down at the end of the street and fire it up. A lot of fun.
How do you think that led to what you're doing today, running your own company?
I think immensely. I mean, just by taking, being proactive. And, I was never a reactive person. I was always proactive, Pat.
Mm-hmm. Matthew?
Yeah, Ed, you told us you were the youngest of 6, but something happened when you were 1, I think you said?
I did. When my oldest sibling was 15 and he was my brother. My next sibling down was 13, and my sister, and she passed away suddenly. Very impactful to the family.
I'm sure it was. How was it But tell us a little more. How was it impactful on your family?
Well, I was a very young child when it happened. She suddenly had a headache and passed out and died from a brain aneurysm right in front of the entire family at morning breakfast. I was young and didn't see it, but it affected my family growing up as it became older and realized.
How did your parents get your family through that?
They had no choice. They had 5 other children, and they were very faithful people. So they knew they'd see her again in the afterlife.
That's a big statement. What's faith got to do with it?
Faith has to do with everything. When you have faith, you live a healthy, fruitful life, and you don't fear death, and you also learn to treat people with respect because of your faith. That's what faith teaches you, to respect not only a God but also others.
Does faith carry over into the business?
It does. I mean, I respect. I'm faithful not only with God, but I'm faithful with all of my employees, and I'm responsible for not only those 30 or 40 employees, but their extended families. So, you have to have faith in people and trust them and believe in them.
Shannon?
And in the green room, you mentioned that even your siblings didn't sleep upstairs in the traditional bedrooms. You were kind of spread out throughout the downstairs part of your house because your dad would rent out the upstairs bedrooms. Can you tell us, what did you think about that as a kid? And looking back on it, what does it mean to you now?
Well, he converted the second floor to an apartment, and it was a single woman living up there. And we all lived downstairs. My brothers and I shared the dining room / living room, and my parents slept on the side porch, and my sister slept in the butler's pantry. And quite frankly, Shannon, it was normal. I didn't know it was different. I went to my other friends' homes, and I thought, wow, these places are nice. Although I have to say our house was beautiful and well kept and clean. It was just an odd arrangement that I didn't realize was odd until I became older.
It sounds pretty resourceful for your dad to come up with converting that upstairs to an apartment like that.
That's the only way he could afford to own that house. That woman paid the mortgage for 30 years. She actually was the tenant for 30 years. She was there forever. She would have Sunday dinners with us.
Wait, what's that have to do? What's that resourcefulness have to do with how you're building this business?
Well, I think I learned from my father and my mother. My father was legally blind and never really had a career, and my mother was a church music organist. And, I learned how to be resourceful and make sure I invest my money and spend my money wisely and don't be a fool with funds.
Drew?
Ed, you're a pilot, a carpenter, play the guitar. You have a lot of different hobbies. What's that tell us about you?
Well, Drew, I do. I have a whole lot of hobbies. I hunt, I fly fish, and I captained a boat, and I fly a plane, and I play guitar. I do all that. And I also love sports and golf and all those things. And I think how I've learned to enjoy all those things is by meeting with clients, understanding what are their hobbies, what do they like to do, what interests them. And if you can talk a little bit about everything, it really helps the business and sales. And I really find that a person who can do a lot of things on his own can be super successful in business just on the sales end.
And how's that like passion for like wanting to dig in on something and figure it out? How has that really inspired your business?
Oh, completely. I've been the type of person that I'd like to try everything, whether it be learn a foreign language or, like I said, play guitar and many other things, build homes. It fuels my drive to be a successful business person because I want to be good at what I try to do.
Frank?
So, Ed, you're obviously self-taught in a lot of areas, but getting back to your business, where did you first learn the mechanical aspect of it and the leadership aspect of it? How'd you get exposed to that?
Well, when I graduated high school, Frank, in our family, not only one of the siblings went to college, and so we all went into the working world. I started out as an apprentice plumber, moved into the fire protection world, worked there in the field, and went to college at night for about 6 years. And when I finished off and got my certifications, I quit and started my own business.
And Ed, you mentioned in the green room that one of the things that you got from the family was love. I'm trying to figure out, what's love have to do with building this fire business?
Well, I mean, the love quote that I said was the love that I saw between my parents. They were married for, 65 years, and they loved each other unbelievably. And, I think that has a lot to do with loyalty and commitment. And
what's the website address for Metropolitan Fire Protection?
It's metrofirepro.net.
We've been speaking with Ed Babin, president of Metropolitan Fire Protection here on Executive Leaders. We'll be back in a moment right after this quick break. We're back. You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen. We'd like to introduce Michael Slupecki, who's the CEO and president of Griswold Home Care. Michael, what is Griswold Home Care?
Yeah, Griswold is a home senior care franchising business.
How many employees are there system-wide?
Yeah, if you look across the whole system, I would say we employ approximately 10,000 care workers.
Wow. And where are you from originally? How many brothers and sisters? Where are you in the pecking order?
Yeah, sure. I'm originally from Toledo, Ohio. I was the youngest of three boys.
All right. Drew.
Michael, what is the impact of being the little brother?
I think it just always challenges you to raise your game. I had my oldest brother was only a few years older than I was, so we were always playing sports, and they were always bigger and stronger, but I had to work harder and do more.
And what do you bring from that experience to Griswold every day?
I think it's always overcoming the next challenge and raising your game up to the next level.
Matthew?
Michael, tell us about your parents.
So my dad was originally a Marine, an electrician, did not get a 4-year degree, but rose to the level of a plant manager at a paper mill. My mom was a nurse. She went through a 3-year program, started out as a nurse, and then was working in an office.
And which one are you more like?
Yeah, definitely my father. My mother was a little bit more.
Why more like your father?
My dad was more laid back.
And you told us a little bit about the ways your dad liked to teach you. Tell us about that.
Yeah, he would go for, here's the result I want, you figure it out.
Give me an example of that.
Oh, you want a game system? Get a job. And so we grew up doing newspaper routes and carrying clubs, the whole bit.
And what is that sense of you want something, figure it out, or here's the goal, figure it out? What's that got to do with running Griswold Home Care?
As a leader, that's how I operate. I don't tell you what to do. I tell you what I want. And I want people that have the initiative to get it done and figure it out.
Frank?
So, Michael, your business is all about caregiving. So you're sensitive to that subject, and maybe even more so, the caregiver employees themselves. Why is that important to you?
I think we all have parents and grandparents that we've seen at an older age, and we want to make sure they're living where they want to live, which is in the home. And I think what we do is make sure the franchisees that we partner with have that same thing first. They're not in it for the money, they're in it for the care.
And what does that ultimately mean for the consumer, your customer?
they feel it. They feel the passion, they feel the heart, and that's really what we're targeting.
Mm-hmm. Ben?
Michael, what was your favorite sport that you were playing growing up?
It's funny. My favorite sport up until the 5th grade was always baseball. And then I changed that around when I got cut from the 5th grade basketball team. And I really went all into basketball, and it ended up being the sport I played through high school.
So after you got cut, your interest in your favorite sport changed. What does that tell us about you?
Yeah, I think it's just another one of those things where you don't like to fail.
How does not liking to fail?
And if you fail, you figure out a way to turn that into a success. And, I almost feel like if you're not failing, you're not trying.
And how do you bring that to your career?
You just always approach it with a chip on your shoulder, your competitiveness. And, that's really what I do almost, in everything. You want to be better. If somebody tells you you're not good enough, you figure out a way to get better.
Shannon?
Michael, who was someone outside of your immediate family that you looked up to as a kid?
Yeah, my dad's brother. We were really close, vacation together. I really still love that man.
And what was it about him? What did he teach you that made an impact?
Yeah, the thing I took from him, really growing up, my parents weren't sticklers on our speech and our grammar, and he was always the one that was correcting me. And I think that, as leaders, we have to be articulate. To get credibility, we have to be articulate, and I think I took that from him.
You also mentioned you had a second uncle that had an influence on you. What was that other uncle's influence?
Yeah, he rose to the very high level in Marriott Corporation as their CFO, and I started my career down the financial path. Even though I've always was operationally minded, I think as a result of his influence.
Mm-hmm. Pat,
how did your dad being a Marine impact your childhood?
Well, I think it's the discipline for sure, attention to detail, the tuck in your shirt and everything's done a specific way. I think that really translates to franchising, where we're trying to set up a specific process and have everybody do it the same way in the most efficient way.
Mm-hmm. Who's got the next question?
Michael, you mentioned that at 14 you were reading the Wall Street Journal and Forbes magazine. What was that all about? Why were you doing that?
Yeah, I always was a student of business. I think it was just something, a curiosity from a neighbor started it out, but also my high school basketball coach taught a business type class. And I really just, dove into it and really started learning a lot, all aspects of business. I had a head start from anybody that was in college.
What fascinated you most about that? Like, what were you reading about?
Yeah, originally it's kind of the investment piece and what makes companies, grow and become more valuable. But it became less about, the stock market and more about what made companies successful.
Mm-hmm. Next question.
Michael, how young were you when you realized you were a perfectionist?
You wouldn't believe it. I mean, even, when baseball was my favorite sport, I'll go back to that. I was reading books, about the certain, I knew the rules better than anybody I ever played with. It was just something that I always was a student of everything I did.
And did that feel like a burden to you, or did you enjoy that? Or tell me how you reacted to that.
I feel like, I felt like it was one more thing to be better at than somebody else.
Where's that drive to be better? Does that go back to being the youngest?
I think it actually goes back to being the youngest of three boys and just always wanting to play up.
What's your relationship like with your brothers now?
No, really good. I actually, at a later age, I lost my older brother when I was about 36 years old when he was hit and killed on his bike. But the other one is actually visiting me right now, as a matter of fact. But we were all very, very close because we were such similar ages and played sports together all growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Michael, what's your role and what's your relationship with the franchise owners?
Yeah, so that's a key piece because relationships are key. And then the appreciation for entrepreneurs is what I bring to that relationship. Is I know they're the people that are many times taking the garbage out, right? They're the reason the business is existing. And so having that respect for the challenges they face every single day is what I not only bring personally, but also to my leadership organization.
So as entrepreneurs, they themselves probably have strong opinions of how they should run business. How do you marry that desire with your business model?
The thing about the relationship is we're aligned about 99%, but we have to respect that it's not 100. We have to do things. They have to do things. We have advisory groups that get people together, make sure we're idea sharing and doing the right thing. And we're all paddling the same way.
So what's the biggest trait you look for in a potential franchisee?
Would I trust them with my mom? Would I work for them? And then money's not the biggest motivator.
Would you trust them with your mom? Tell me about that.
Well, look, they're going to go into the home and meet families. And the only way they're going to get work is if the clients trust them, with their mom. And since businesses are all leader led, right? No great people works for a dud boss. And so I need leaders at the top that are going to attract and retain talent.
Wow.
It sounds to me like you really understand the methodology, the component pieces, how a chain is only as good as its weakest link. You really understand how to put a process together. It sounds to me like you really did get a good dose of your dad, the Marine, and how to do things the right way the first time. What's the website address for this Griswold Home Care?
You named it. It's just GriswoldHomeCare.com.
GriswoldHomeCare.com. We've been speaking with Michael Slupecki, who's the CEO and president of Griswold Home Care, here on Executive Leaders Radio. Don't forget to visit our website. It's executiveleadersradio.com. That's executiveleadersradio.com to learn more about our executive leaders. Stick around. We'll be back in a moment.
You now can recognize your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, executiveleadersradio.com. Yes, you can recognize your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, executiveleadersradio.com. Simply visit executiveleadersradio.com, securely enter their info, and we'll reach out to spotlight your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, executiveleadersradio.com. Don't wait. This radio and online social media and search engine exposure is quite valuable to your advisors. Yes, this radio and online social media exposure is free and quite valuable to your business advisors who deserve to be recognized. Visit executiveleadersradio.com now to nominate your deserving business advisors.
Back. You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen. We'd like to introduce TJ Colaiezzi, co-founder and CEO of an organization known as LifeBrand. What is LifeBrand? What are you guys doing?
We are the world leader in social media education, detection, and prevention.
Where are you from originally? How many brothers and sisters? Where are you in the pecking order?
I'm from good old Delco, Springfield, Delaware County, just outside of Philadelphia. One of three, and I'm the oldest with a younger brother and a younger sister.
Drew.
TJ, you're a really creative guy. Like, when were you first inventing stuff?
As far back as I remember, I was probably 5 or 6, and all I wanted from Santa for Christmas was a toolkit, real tools, a hammer, a real saw, so that I could build things down in our basement and out back in the yard.
What did you want to build?
Everything. I remember building a bookcase for my little sister when I was only probably 7 or 8 years old. I loved the idea of just having something in my mind and turning that into something real and tangible.
And how did that experience at a young age transfer over to what you're doing today?
I think it definitely transferred over just into wanting to be creative, realizing that anything you can think of, you can build, you can do it yourself. But going through a process, there's a process to build stuff, whether it's a piece of furniture or a business. and every process is important, and a lot of things need to come together for it all to work at the end.
Matthew.
Yeah, it's funny. You just mentioned building a bookcase for your sister. What did being the oldest of three do to you growing up?
I think it taught me how to take care of others. Even if it didn't quite come out that way, I'm sure my brother and I would fight and get on each other's nerves. But, I always had the best interest of my brother and sister at heart and kind of looking out for them, looking over them.
Where did that sense of responsibility for looking out for them come from?
Absolutely, from my mother and father. I mean, everything they did in their life was to make sure me and my brother and my sister had a great life and that they were there for us. So it certainly came from them.
And you told us a story about your dad kind of teaching you that sense of responsibility. Share that with us.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of different examples. One of them is, when I was a young person, I wanted to start driving or I wanted something. Sure, you can drive, but where are you going to get the money for gas? Where are you going to get the money to chip in for insurance, for repairs? It was always to get out there and work, but also to stick up for myself. I remember coming home one day because a kid around the corner was picking on me and I came home crying, expecting my mother and father to be sympathetic and say, "Oh my God, my baby, what's wrong?" And they told me to get my rear end back out there and go stick up for myself, to, not let somebody push me around and, certainly don't start a fight growing up, but certainly be, finish it and not get pushed over.
And how did that feel to you, getting basically kicked out of the house to go fend for yourself? Were you scared, excited? What?
At the beginning, I was kind of like, why doesn't my mom and dad love me? And, you quickly then realize, well, it's because they loved you that they made you go out and not only stick up for myself, but fight your own battles. Don't expect somebody else to fix stuff for you. Go out and take care of yourself and fight your own battles.
And how did that one turn out?
It turned out great. Me and him ended up being friends. I think he kind of respected the fact that I went back and stood my ground. And I think in business, people respect that too. They want you to be fair, but stand your ground and, stand up for yourself.
Perfect. Ben?
PJ, tell us more about Mom. What was it like growing up with your relationship with your mother?
My relationship with my mother was great and still is to this day. She was home with us during the day, was, that quote unquote stay at home mom, but then went out and worked a job at night in the middle of the night when we were sleeping. So she never missed time, getting us off the bus or being there to do homework or dinner or baths, and would work in the middle of the night to help earn money. Just like my father left his full-time job, he would teach at night at Gwynedd Mercy College to make sure we had that money for those little things like family vacations or whatever it may be.
Seeing your parents take care of you both during the day and throughout the night, 24/7, what did that teach you?
I think it taught me to put other people first, do what you need to do to make sure people are taken care of. I look at that with our employees here. I feel like I have an obligation to them to make sure they're taken care of, that they can provide for their families. This company protects individuals with their social media and companies with their social media, but I have an obligation to protect the people that are here as well.
Mm-hmm. Frank?
So, TJ, tell us, how young were you when you first started making money?
I was probably 6 or 7. I was that kid with the lemonade stand on the side of the road. That my parents probably spent more money and supplies than I made selling lemonade, but did it to teach us how to go out and earn a living. I wanted a job when I was really young to get my working papers to go out and clean dishes or whatever I had to do to get a job and make a couple dollars.
So how were you thinking outside the box then at a young age?
At the young age, my mindset was always just get a foot in the door. If you get a foot in the door and you outwork everybody else, you don't necessarily have to be the smartest person there. And then once you're there, think outside the box as to how you can make your job easier or better, the jobs of other better. And if you out hustle and outwork people, eventually you end up on top.
So what's most important, the toolkit, the process, or thinking outside the box?
I think it's all of it. I think you got to intertwine all those things to be creative and want to build something. You also have to think outside the box. And, you also have to have that compassion for others and the process of building something. I think they're all important as a leader to address all those areas because your company has all those different areas that you need to manage as well.
Mm-hmm. Shannon?
In the green room, you mentioned that you have 2 daughters and another baby on the way. I'm curious, what have your 2 daughters taught you that impacts the way you're building your team today?
I think it just taught me to look at things from a different perspective. Being obviously a guy growing up and always thinking, I don't know why I always thought I would have boys, and all of a sudden I've had girl, and we just found out we have another one on the way, and that's a girl too. So I'm going to have 3 girls. And it just made me really realize that there's different ways of doing things and, treating people. I want to set a great example for my daughters of what a man should be that they would want to be with. So that kind of transfers into work of treating your employees the way they deserve to be treated, male or female, making sure everybody's respected, everyone's heard.
Mm-hmm. Pat?
You mentioned one of your role models growing up was your woodshop teacher in high school. Can you tell us a little bit about him?
Yeah, George Trout. He was incredible. He was just so compassionate and there for the kids, but really pushed people's thinking. You know, most people would say they would learn in, math or whatever was their most biggest learning experience. But with him, it was think outside the box. How can it's okay to make mistakes. I built a Victorian pool table my junior year in high school. The thing was incredible. Well, it was supposed to be a bed originally, but I miscut something. And he said, all right, no problem. Let's figure out how we can take what you messed up and turn it into something great. I think that transfers in life that mistakes, you learn from them, you move on, and it doesn't have to be a horrible thing. But he really taught us that's where the thinking outside the box came from. He would encourage his students to cheat on a test in his classroom. And if you got caught, or if you made it through, tell him about it, because he believed that you can learn from anybody. You can learn from your students. And I think that's transferred over as a boss, that I can learn from anybody that works in my organization. But he'd still get you, if you got caught cheating, you were still going to the principal's office. So it was kind of play by the rules, but if you can figure out a way to think outside the box, well, then tell me about it. And he was such an incredible guy that cared about kids, and really challenged thinking, which I think is unbelievable.
Drew?
Yeah, I think one of the most impactful things you've said is when you were forced to go out and face the bully, you made friends with them. And what's that really tell us about you?
I think I try to make friends with everybody eventually. When it comes down to business, people buy from people that they like and trust. That old saying of don't burn bridges. And, people come from different places that have different viewpoints. I really try to hear their viewpoint, no matter if I disagree with it or I don't believe in it. Educate me. Tell me why you think that way or why you're doing that. And I think that comes from that, trying to take apart a negative relationship.
Is that part of the culture of LifeBrand?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. We're all trying to hear other people's opinions and views. I pride us in having a very diversified group of folks, and everybody's opinions respected, heard, and yes.
Mm-hmm. Ben?
TJ, when you were talking to Pat about your woodshop teacher, you mentioned that you learned how to take a mistake or something that was messed up and turn it into something great. But it sounds like this isn't only something you believe in, but actually it kind of sounds exactly like your product. Do you see a comparison there?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's one of those things that just because you messed up something doesn't mean it has to be the end. Our technology, people, let's face it, young kids post dumb things on social media. Kids say things that adults wouldn't. That shouldn't ruin their livelihood or ruin the company that they worked for. They deserve a chance to fix that and turn it into something else. And that certainly comes back from those early days of looking at problems, addressing them, and making them right. There's nothing wrong with making a mistake if you write it. And there's nothing wrong if you do something wrong, as long as you go back and do the right thing to fix it.
Mm-hmm. How large or how small is your team, TJ?
Currently, we have 15 employees here in Westchester, PA, and another 11 in Prague in the Czech Republic.
It sounds to me like you must have a really good environment to work in. What's the website address of this organization known as LifeBrand?
LifeBrand.life.
We've been speaking with TJ Colaiezzi, co-founder and CEO of LifeBrand here on Executive Leaders Radio. Matthew, could you give us a rundown on who else we've had on the show today, please?
Yeah, it's been a really great show this morning, Herb. We started off with Tia Lyles-Williams, the founder and CEO of LucasPye Bio. Then we had Ed Babin, the president of Metropolitan Fire Protection. We followed him with Michael Slupecki, the CEO and president of Griswold Home Care. And just now we wrapped it up with TJ Colaiezzi, the co-founder and CEO of LifeBrand.
I would like to thank my co-hosts, including Shannon Lane, Newmark Knight Frank, Drew Hanlon, Frank Hennessy, Premier Planning Group, Ben Drummond, D2 Integrated Solutions, Pat Riley, USI, and Matthew Shapiro Obermeyer for giving me hand instruction to questions. He'll be providing our listening audience an educational and entertaining show. I'd like to thank our listening audience for listening. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a radio show. Don't forget to visit our website, executiveleadersradio.com, to learn more about our executive leaders. Thank you for joining us today, and have a nice day. Bye-bye.